Hi, welcome to the Patreon tutorial section. I'm here just to give you a quick introduction, say hi. I hope you're going to follow the process through all the way to the end. I'm going to do several different kind of sessions of tutorials, so the first one's going to be the introduction one. I think a lot of people have actually asked me in the past how I do my caricatures, so I thought it was a good idea to start with how to do the whole process from start to finish of a caricature, especially the way I do my caricatures. So what we're going to do is cover those. If you follow through on the next part of the video, you'll see all the stages we're going to go through. But I just wanted to say that there'll be more different kinds of tutorials, my art, animal art, how I do it with pencil, all this kind of stuff. So it's not just digital, it's going to be traditional and digital, how to combine the two and all these kind of things. But the first session will be primarily about how I do caricatures. This is how it's going to follow through in the different stages through the different months. Okay, I just wanted to go through the actual process of what the caricature tutorials will involve. This will be first of many different kind of sessions I'll be doing. Each will be a 12-month block, okay, like so. And within those 12-month blocks we will actually be having 4 sessions per month, so there'll be one every week basically, and these will cover different aspects of designing a caricature all the way through from the start to the finish. Now, each session per week will be 15 minutes. I don't want to do it too long because I wanted to make it easy for you to grasp what's being said and so forth, and it's important not to distract you with long drawn out processes. If it does need to be a bit more than 15 minutes, I will do it for more than 15 minutes, but on a whole we're going to try and keep everything short and sweet, and this is one reason why there's 4 sessions, so it gets covered over the actual whole month. Something important to cover regarding caricature design. Okay, that will end up with some kind of activity requirement, whether it's every week I'll ask you to see if you can do something to show that you followed the process. It could be something at the end of the month, or even at the end of the whole session I will ask you to see if you can actually achieve a caricature or an element of a caricature based on what I've been saying. So each month will start off. The first one will be about mainly research aspects, picking a pose. This is looking through different photographs, finding the ideal picture so you can actually then make your life a lot easier. So this is in researching caricature, looking at the face, what makes an ideal face for a caricature. The body, again, you may find a great face, a picture of a face, nice lighting, etc, etc, facial structure and whatever, but the body's cut off or it doesn't look great or whatever, so you want to put two things together. And if you're starting off drawing and you're not very good at drawing figures, you may want to find a dynamic body as well, and I'll show you how you can get all this together and everything. And that's basically the end part, which is to combine all these different aspects to make a great starting point for your actual caricature composition. The second month we'll be going into roughing it all out. That will involve looking at the 2 different ways you can do it, with pencil or digital. I prefer pencil. I always do my Celebrity Sundays in pencil, but some people might like drawing in digital, so I'll do both versions to show you how things work out. How to use your eyes to reference the actual image that you've chosen and to convert it into a good looking pencil drawing using the computer technique or a pencil technique. Geometric shapes, which is a very important aspect of drawing a shape and compositional features, and we'll look at this in detail so you understand this is the roughing out stage that gets you to the point where you can actually make your life a lot easier. And once you've done all those geometric shapes based on all this information you've gathered, you'll need to fill it out. Okay, so make this actual pose composition work properly. Okay, month 3 we'll be looking at the principles of caricatures, because you got the rough, so you want to know how to then make it all work to your favour. Okay, so we'll be looking at this famous eyes-nose ratio, what makes something work as a caricature and what doesn't make something work as a caricature. So how big are the eyes, how far apart are they, how big is the nose, etc, etc. This is an important part of understanding, and I'll show you examples. Okay, face shapes. What are the most important face shapes? How to recognize from what seems to be a very boring photograph of a celebrity or a person, how to define which face shape it is. That's important as well. Head disproportioning. Now this is to do with how it fits onto the body. You may see lots of caricatures that actually have really enormous heads and small bodies, some that have medium-sized heads on a relatively normal body, and so forth. And so what we've got to talk about is what will make yours work best, and then we'll go through that whole understanding of that. And because of that, we'll move on to doing the body design. This will be roughing it out roughly, and so we'll then create a pose. It may even just be stick figures, but it's important to get the pose correct in rough, and then we can fill in the details. So sketching out the render, this is where you're going to start making it into more detailed, including the background. So we'll be sketching out the rough face to get it right, adding the body and composition so it all works together, modifying the rough so something may have gone wrong when you're actually drawing it out and you don't want it the way it is, so you've got to modify it so it works properly for you. And some certain tools I found on the computer that can help you with this, because you may be new to this and you may not know how to do a body illustration or a drawing of a full body in a certain pose or posture or whatever, so it's important to understand that there are things that can help you. Okay, now we've been moving on to actually finishing the pose, which involve using the computer. What can we do using the computer to make this look a lot better? This involves doing things to do with layers and how you can use the different layers to resize different parts to alter the pose before you start rendering. Adding background details. There's lots of different things I do personally to add details to the background, which will help you a lot to understand how to make everything look fresh and exciting. Okay, and then setting up the canvas to render out. So this is going into the actual process of doing the actual finished artwork. Now the 6 months we'll be looking at block colouring, how important that is. So for instance, sampling over palette, which is the best. I'll discuss that in the thing. I know what my favourite is, and so we'll look at it in for the 15-minute session, how we can use the two different ways of actually setting up the colours we'll be using. So we'll then look at how to take all your sketching and the referencing to create primary shapes of colour. This will help you as well when you come to actually doing the blending and the filling and whatever. Okay, so the use of primary shapes inside your actual composition, why they're valuable and important. And then going on to the secondary level of colours, which will be the basis of how to understand your lighting, the depth and everything. Okay, 7th month we'll have a whole month of looking at eyes, because eyes are the most important part of the whole process. If you don't get the eyes right, you might as well go home. Okay, so understanding eyes, what makes a good eye, how to make it work properly, building up an eye in your composition, whether it's to do with the actual shape, the actual detail, or the actual colouring method. Okay, and then how that all works together when you put the surround of the eye in, because it all works very intuitively when you're looking at a photograph, but when you're actually painting it, it's very important to understand how to build all this up and make it work in a way. At the end of each month, I'll give you, on these detail sections, I'll give you kind of some tips and tricks about how it all works and everything. And this will also be a kind of a catch-up stage, just in case you may have slowed down on some of these parts. Next month, hands. Now, I know hands are very difficult, so we're going to look at hands in detail as much as we're going to look at eyes in detail, and that's the kind of the biology of hands and how to make hands easier to draw, which is going to be helpful. Building up hands in an easy way, in a simple way that makes doing the composition proper. Fingers and details, which will help you understand what will make the actual hand work best in your composition. You can't just basically hide them or have them behind your back or just doing a very default hand and hopefully it works. You want to actually challenge yourself to do a really good quality hand, and we'll look at that in detail. And again, tips and tricks. Now, once you've got the hands and the eyes sorted out, we can go into the face and the blending, which is important as well, because this will all be in how to get lighting working properly, where the light should fall, all this kind of stuff. So we're going to look at shapes and light, blending options, and how to use brushes to make the blending work better. hair, which is a very difficult aspect if you're new to it, and I've seen so many different people just end up making a complete botch job of hair, and this is an important part of it. So most people comment on how good my hair looks sometimes, and not my personal hair but my character's hair, and so I'm going to show you how to do that and tips and tricks again. Okay, the next is we're going to talk about the body, the dynamics of body, what will make it look more dynamic, whether that's depth cueing. If you understand what depth cueing is, we'll talk about that if you don't. Also the positioning of arms. Lots of people try to draw arms so that every part of the arm is showing. Sometimes you want the arm behind the body, and that's what we're going to be talking about. Is it going to make the actual composition better and more effective, etc, etc. Okay, arms and legs, like I said, so we'll talk about those in detail. Clothes, how to do clothes, which is another thing. Do we have the clothes flapping? How do you do the creases, folds? Where do you put the lighting? All this kind of stuff. This is all important as well. That might actually cover into the second part of the tips and tricks, which I forgot to put the eye in there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, and 11, this is the last finishing month. Okay, so you got almost all the way through your painting by now, so we're going to look at the background, how to make that work as well. Saying that, we may actually start off with some parts of the background, fleshing it out a little bit, so but also adding the details. That's just as important. Some of the little things you can do to help color correct your image, to make the character stand out more, etc, etc, and the little tips and tricks, like I said, to finish off that background and the final aspects of the composition. Now, the last one, I call it tips and tricks, but it probably won't actually be all tips and tricks. For instance, we'll be talking about what's best, doing your caricature traditional over digital, spelled it wrong again, never mind, and also scanning, all the kind of things you can do with scanning, and making more creative aspects of scanning, all this kind of stuff. Brushes, colours, all this kind of stuff that are vital to do great compositions and drawings and everything. And how to make your composition really work. Some little tricks you may want to put into place to actually get everything to come out the way you want it to. And finally, the Patreon challenge, which I said before at the start. Now, if you follow all that, you may want to actually do a thing, and I want you to look at the idea of actually sending me the finished pieces to give me an opportunity to do a critique on them and help you understand how to make them all better and everything. So that will be kind of a part of the old process, and it may be mentioned throughout any of those stages. But this is what we're going to be looking at through the entire process, and I hope you'll join in to enjoy how to design a caricature from start to finish.